Back with another Bond review, and tonight we're talking about Thunderball, also known as the underwater Bond film. And this one, to me, it's a good Bond flick, but at the same time, I do have a couple of nitpicks with the film, which I'll get into. Now, earlier in the year, I was watching this, and at the time, it took a little bit for me to get into, I will be honest, and, I kind of stopped the movie. I'm like, I'll get back to it later, or I'll wait to do a marathon, that way I can watch the entire film. And now that I've seen the film in its entirety, I can't say I've warmed up to the film. And again, it's a good Bond flick, but not without some flaws here. Now, before I get into the story, the plot, I think it's worth mentioning some of the legal disputes here with this movie. I'll talk about that a little bit. Not go in depth, but, sort of read off what Wikipedia says about the legal disputes. So it says right here, Thunderball is the fourth in the James Bond series produced by Eon Productions, starring Sean Connery as James Bond. It is an adaptation of the 1961 novel of the same name by Ian Fleming, which in turn was based on the original story by Kevin McClory, Jack Whittingham, and Ian Fleming. It was the third and final Bond film to be directed by Terrence Young, who directed Dr. No and From Russia with Love, with its screenplay by Richard Maybaum and John Hopkins. The movie would have been the first of the Bond series if not for the legal disputes over copyright. Now, talking about the story, this time around, it follows Bond on a mission to find a couple of NATO atomic bombs that were stolen by Spectre. The organization Spectre, which holds the world for ransom at 100 million in diamonds under its threat to destroy a certain location, which find out, later on it's Miami. And the search leads Bond to the Bahamas, where he encounters the main villain, Largo, who is a sort of an enforcer. He wears an eye patch, sort of a playboy type. And he's number two, Spectre number two. And James Bond is, getting help from CIA agent Felix Leiter and Largo's mistress, Domino, which the actress they got for that character is gorgeous. And, later on it kind of culminates into a battle underwater where, the Navy SEALs are taking on Largo's men, which is a lot of fun. Really cool battle underwater. And there's a lot of underwater shots in the film, which is, that's one thing I'll say about the film. A lot of the underwater shots and, some of the underwater battle at the end, it's a lot of well-filmed, shots. And it was the first Bond film. Well, I kind of get ahead of myself here, but, it's up to Bond to stop Largo and to, stop his plan. But what I was getting to is this is the first Bond film shot in widescreen Panavision, and the first to have a running time over 2 hours. Because I think From Russia with Love was at 2 hours, and this is at almost 2 hours and 10 minutes. But talking about some of the legal disputes here, this is what it says, and it's kind of a small paragraph here. Thunderball was associated with legal dispute in 1961 when former Ian Fleming collaborators McClory and Whittingham sued him shortly after the 1961 publication of the novel, claiming he based it upon the screenplay the trio had written in a failed cinematic translation of Bond. The lawsuit was settled out of court, and Bond film series producers Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, fearing a rival McClory film, allowed him to retain certain screen rights to the novel's story, plot, and characters, and for McClory to receive sole producer credit on the movie. Broccoli and Saltzman instead served as executive producers. And this film was a big hit, being a budget of $9 million, and worldwide it made over $141 million. Um, it says right here exceeded not only that of every one of its predecessors, but that of every one of the 5 Bond films that followed. Thunderball is the most financially successful film of the series in North America when adjusted for ticket price inflation. So, yeah, it says also some critics and viewers praised the film and it branded a welcome addition to the series, while others found the aquatic action repetitious and the film's length excessive. In 1983, Warner Brothers released the second adaptation of the novel under the title Never Say Never Again, which is the unofficial Bond film, with McClory as executive producer. And so yeah, there's and a little bit more information about that legal dispute. It says right here, originally meant as the first Bond film. Yeah, I mean, it kind of repeats a little bit of the information that I just read, but later in '64, on producers Broccoli, yeah, I think it kind of expands on that a little bit. Um, yeah, Never Say Never Again, which later on Sean Connery would come back as the character Bond, is not a Eon production. So it kind of expands on that information a little bit. But yeah, I mean, interesting to read about that. I mean, and so I thought it was worth mentioning, even though I didn't really go too much in depth on that. Now, the film itself, again, I do like this movie. It's a good one, but I think what does hurt the film is the runtime because, like I mentioned before, it's over 2 hours and 10 minutes. And, there's a lot of times in the film, a lot of moments where I'm like, this could have been cut back or, maybe they could have scaled back on the pacing. They could have easily made this 20 minutes, less. Or, I don't know. I mean, it's like a combination. The more I think about this movie, it's kind of like a combination of the first 2 movies. And this film does have merits, which I'll get into. I will talk about, the pros and cons and stuff like that. But like I said, it's kind of a combination of the first 2 where it has some of the fun vibes of Dr. No. And it has like the pacing of From Russia with Love, which I don't say that as a knock against From Russia with Love. I understand a lot of people say that that's more of a serious movie. It's more of a serious Bond adventure. And no one really talks about the pacing of that film. But that's one thing about that film that I think they could have worked on is the pacing, because and this one is a little bit longer. So I'm not knocking. Again, I don't mean that as a knock against, From Russia with Love, but I kind of use that as an example where this film, Thunderball, again, has some fun vibes of Dr. No, but it kind of reminds me of From Russia with Love and the pacing. And this is a little bit longer film than that. But when you get to the underwater scenes and a lot of the underwater shots, I will say, it's well filmed and it's well shot, especially in the third act. Again, when you have, the underwater battle scene where you have Largo's men and you have the Navy SEALs and, they're shooting harpoons at each other and, you have like a guy over here with a knife, he kills this one guy with, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Definitely one of the more memorable aspects of the film. But a lot of the film, again, a lot of the stuff in between, it's there's some moments where it wasn't as engaging. It's like when it got to the underwater shots, that's where it got my attention. And it kind of feels like at times, I don't know if it's that maybe the filmmakers were like, okay, let's just get to the underwater shots. And the stuff that's in between is a lot of fluff. And I don't know. I kind of get that impression a little bit, and I mean, again, this film does have some merits. I mean, I could talk about the cast. Sean Connery is good here, even though I think at the time Sean Connery was having reservations about the Bond character, that maybe he was kind of getting a little bit tired of playing Bond here. And I think when people talk about the next one, You Only Live Twice, which I actually enjoy. To me, that's a fun Bond movie that a lot of people say by that film, Sean Connery didn't look as interested, or he looked bored. And here, this is kind of where maybe he was getting tired of the character and kind of tired of the public's view, especially here in America, of, James Bond and the kind of craze that came along with it. But, Sean Connery's still good here. You have the character, the Bond girl, Domino. And if I can pull up the cast, that'd be nice. The character of Domino is played by Claudine Auger, and she's dubbed by Nikki Van... I'm not going to even try to pronounce that name. But Domino is Largo's mistress. And it says here as well, in early drafts of the screenplay, Domino's name was Dominita Plazzi. And when Claudine Auger was cast as Domino, the name was changed to Duval, or something like that, to reflect her nationality. But, aside from that, the actress that played Domino, again, like I mentioned in my review of Goldfinger, I would say of the first few, she's definitely my favorite Bond girl. I do like Honey Rider in the first one. Tatiana and For Emotional Love, I thought she was okay. I like Pussy Galore and Goldfinger, but out of the first few, Domino, the actress that played this character, I thought she was gorgeous. And yeah, I mean, I thought she was a really good Bond girl. You had the main villain, Amelia Largo, who was played by Adolfo Celi. And I thought the villain of Largo here, again, he has an eye patch. He's kind of an enforcer and sort of a playboy, because, I mean like a playboy type where he has a mansion and he has a pool in his backyard with sharks in his pool. There's even one scene where he throws one guy into the pool, and you don't see the sharks eat the guy, but you get the impression. But like I said, the main villain here, Largo, he's number 2 for Spectre. And, he enjoys cigars, and again, he has the eye patch gimmick. I thought the villain itself, I thought, he did okay. I mean, he's not a Dr. No, or not as memorable as the other villains that came before, like a Dr. No, or, Robert Shaw as a Grant, Goldfinger, On Job. Not as memorable as the villains that came before. But I thought he did okay. You also have this other female character, Fiona Volpe, who is an assassin for Spectre. And so you have her character. You have, Felix Leiter, who returns here, different actor again, but he helps Bond on his mission. You also have Q, who comes back and once again supplies Bond with, gadgets and such. The character of Moneypenny. So, again, you got a couple of faces that do come back. But, again, you have a great Bond girl. The villain, while okay, he's okay, but I just think that he's not as memorable. Maybe if you got, like, a different actor at this time, maybe he could have worked better. But I don't think the actor did that bad. I just think that, again, he's not as memorable as previous villains. But for the most part, I thought the cast did fine. I mean, Sean Connery's great. Sean Connery, again is irreplaceable, and he's definitely missed. He was a great Bond. Um, Even though I still like him in the next one, You Only Live Twice. Even though a lot of people say that, again, that he may have looked not as interested in the next one, but I don't see it. And so the cast does good. Again, Terrence Young, he comes back to direct here. And I think with Terrence Young, and again, directing From Russia with Love, I don't know what it is. Like, maybe the guy could have worked better with the pacing. Now, there are some memorable moments here in the film. I mean, you have the pre-title sequence where, Bond is at a funeral for an agent that he killed, but long story short, this one woman he bumps into, it's the agent that's in disguise, and they get into like a little good, like a little fight. I say little, but it's actually a good little fight. It's a good fight, but it's not that long of a fight. But it's still a good fight to kick off the film. And then Bond gets out of there via jetpack. And then you go into the Thunderball theme, which is by Tom Jones. And so, yeah, a cool little intro, like pre-title sequence to kick off the movie. The Thunderball theme by Tom Jones, I like. I mean, I don't mind. Apparently, Tom Jones, like, towards the end of that song, like, when he hits the high note, apparently, like, he fainted or he passed out because, getting that trying to get out that last big note, that he fainted or passed out or something. And if you listen to the song, it kind of cuts off at the end, so you have to believe it a little bit. But yeah, apparently that's what happened. But I don't mind the Thunderball theme by Tom Jones. I guess I can mention, like some of the gadgets here. Let me see. Let me go back to the information on that. And now, of course, you bring back the Aston Martin car, which is great, iconic, car. And for this film, a surprise modification of the car is rear water cannons, which you see before the Thunderball theme comes up in the beginning. But gadget-wise, again, you have the jetpack in the beginning. You have a watch, which has a Geiger counter and can detect, radiation levels. You have a camera. In addition to taking pictures in the dark, it's also used underwater using an infrared lens. Rebreather, which Bond has a small breathing device that he uses in the film. You also have a pill, which Bond takes, like a homing pill, and he can take it, and it emits a signal that can be detected only by a certain receiver. So little moments like that, little, again, gadgets, and you get, again, more of that here. And I thought the gadgets were cool to look at. Such a cool aspect of the franchise and the character. And, I liked the jetpack in the beginning. Even though you're kind of wondering where did it come, where did he have it? Where did he have this jetpack at that he suddenly just pulled out of his ass? But, still cool. Especially when you get to the next one and you talk about Little Nettie, which is cool. Love that little Nettie plane in the next one. But as far as like little trivia here, it was delayed from October 65 release to December, and it was due to the film running long. Variety reported the runtime to be 4.5 hours. So what was cut out that was over 2 more hours or 2.5 hours? Jeez. After the film's release, there was some confusion as to whether the rebreather actually existed and worked. In the real world, a rebreather cannot be that small. as it would not have room for breathing bag. It was made with two CO2 bottles glued together and painted. But of course, it's a movie, so what did they think? I mean, so, and I was trying to see what else here to mention with this movie. I mean, interesting locations. I mean, you have the film take place in Nassau. And again, it kind of reminds me of Dr. No a little bit in that regard. I liked some of the location that was used here. And you get a little bit of Miami, but again, it takes place in the Bahamas. So that was cool to see. And again, a lot of the underwater shots, when they do come up, it does look good. I mean, I thought for the most part it was well filmed and well shot. And I do enjoy the underwater battle at the end. Now, as far as where towards the last, 10 minutes of the film, where Bond and Largo are on the boat, and they have a little fight, and then suddenly you see a speeding up of the camera. That to me doesn't really hold up the best. But at the end of the day, Thunderball, again, it's a film that it's a good Bond flick I've warmed up to. But at the same time, I think it is hurt by the pacing in some points. I mean, it's a 2-hour and 10-minute movie. But I still enjoy Sean Connery. Domino is your Bond girl here. Which again, out of the Bond girls so far, she's definitely, I would say, my favorite. I thought she was gorgeous. I don't mind the Thunderball theme. I really enjoy some of the underwater shots here. And the location of the Bahamas. And the villain, was okay. So, I mean, between this and From Russia with Love, I would say I can watch this film a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, this could have used some work on the pacing. And I think, if maybe they would have cut out 20 minutes or so, it would have been a little bit better. Because at some points, you kind of feel the fluff. But I still say Thunderball's a good Bond flick. So that's my review of Thunderball. So I hope you enjoyed this review. And stay tuned for my review of You Only Live Twice. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.